Dear students, here in this session we are going to discuss the different methods for detecting the problem of autocorrelation in an econometric analysis. So we have already studied what is autocorrelation, what are the different reasons or what are the different causes of autocorrelation, and what are the different consequences with which this autocorrelation problem will bring to the econometric analysis. So here we have to see different detection methods of autocorrelation. So there are different methods for detecting the presence of autocorrelation, and the first method is graphical method. Okay, so graphical method is nothing but the simple method where we have to plot the values of error terms against the lagged value. So simply by plotting the points in a graph, we can see if there is any specific pattern that is followed by the error terms. So if the error terms is following any particular pattern, be it negative or positive, there will be autocorrelation. So if we plot the figure, graph, and this is the first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant and fourth quadrant. If the points, most of the points falls in first and third quadrant like this. Okay, so here we can see a particular pattern. This is positive axis, this is also positive axis. This is negative axis, this is also negative axis. So that means here we can see a positive autocorrelation, because if the points are in first quadrant, both x and both the variables, here it is u hat t, here it is u hat t minus 1. So the variables is following same sign, same sign. So either it is positive in both cases or it is negative in both cases, like in third quadrant. So this will be the negative autocorrelation. Now if again when we plot the graph, values in a graph, and if the points falls in second and fourth quadrants, here it is positive, positive, negative, negative. So here also we can see a specific pattern, right? Okay, and there is opposite sign. So that means here we can see negative autocorrelation. So either the case we can see both positive or negative autocorrelation. So it will be either positive autocorrelation or negative autocorrelation, but the thing is that autocorrelation is present here. So that is the case if the values that is plotted in a graph follows a particular, any particular pattern, negatively related or positively related, whatever it is, it means there is the presence of autocorrelation. So this graphical method is used in order to detect whether there is autocorrelation or not. Okay. And also the plotting can be made with respect to time also. So we can plot the values with respect to u hat t and time, and if it follows a particular pattern like this, then it means negative autocorrelation, because the sign of the values is changing continuously. Here positive, negative, positive, negative. So the sign of the values or the plotted values is changing frequently. Therefore, this will show a negative autocorrelation. Again, if this is the case, look, this is an example of positive autocorrelation, because the sign of the values are changing very less frequently. So the frequency is very less here. Negative was followed for a long time, positively increasing, then decreasing. So this will be a case of a positive autocorrelation. And if the values like this, okay, so this is no autocorrelation. So this is the case that we want, that is no autocorrelation. Okay, so this is the first and simple method for detecting the presence of autocorrelation. Then the second method, that is Run's test. This is a test, a simple test. It is also called Gary test. Okay. Here, what is actually explaining is we are explaining or we are formulating or defining a run. Okay. So for that, first we have to note down the sign of the residuals, positive or negative. Residuals will be either positively signed or they will be negative. So note down the sign continuously. Now define a run as an uninterrupted sequence of one symbol. Okay, so consider an example. We have 15 residual terms. Okay, and first residual term is positive, second is positive, third is positive, fourth is positive, fifth is negative, sixth is negative, seventh is negative, eighth negative, ninth negative, 10th positive, 11 positive, 12 negative, 13 negative, 14 positive, 15 positive. So we have, this is the first residual term, second residual term. We have noted all the residual terms with respect to the sign. Now we have to define a run. So this is the run, that is uninterrupted sequence of one symbol. Now we have to define the length of the run. Length of the run means, okay, so totally here there are 15 elements. So this is one run, uninterrupted sequence. This is the second run. This is the third run, fourth run, fifth run. So here length of the run is 5. We have 5 runs here. Run means uninterrupted sequence of the same symbol. Okay. Okay. So we have defined the run. Now based on this number of run, we can see if there is positive autocorrelation or negative autocorrelation. So by examining how runs behave in a strictly random sequence of observation. So here 4 positive, then 5 negative, 2 positive, 2 negative, 2 positive. So it is continuously changing. That means there will be negative autocorrelation. Okay. So if there are so many runs, it means that the signs are changing frequently and there is negative autocorrelation. Instead of this run, we are getting another one, positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This is the sign that we have noted. Look, here there is only 2 run. Length of the run is very less. That means continuously positive sign followed by negative sign only. Here we can say this is a positive autocorrelation. So what is runs test is actually we are checking the sign of the residual terms and we are defining the run. Based on the number of runs we can say, or based on the frequency of changing sign of the residual terms, we can say if it is positive run, positive autocorrelation or negative autocorrelation. So this is the second method for detecting autocorrelation. Now we are coming to the third and the most important detection method, that is Durbin-Watson D-test. Okay, so this is called Durbin-Watson t-test, developed by 2 statisticians, Durbin and Watson. It is called Durbin-Watson D-statistic or simply D-statistic. Okay. This is a very important test with respect to autocorrelation. The main test that is termed in terms of detection of autocorrelation. Okay. So this D-statistic, this is defined as D is equal to sigma U hat T minus 1 the whole square divided by sigma U hat T square. Okay, so this is the D-statistic. This is the equation for finding out the Durbin-Watson D-statistic value, and let us look how the test is applied in this D-statistic method. Usually this D-statistic method is applied for small samples and also mainly for the first order autoregressive scheme, that is AR1 scheme. In the previous class or in the previous sessions we have dealt with this AR1 scheme somewhere. That means first order autoregressive scheme. Okay, that means our error term u hat t is equal to rho u t minus 1 plus vt. Okay, so rho is nothing but coefficient of autocovariance or coefficient of autocorrelation. At lag 1, t minus 1 is the lag here. 1 lag is there. T is the current time period. T minus 1 is the previous period. So 1 lag will be existing here. So since it is following autoregressive with first order, that means 1 lag will be there. So the error term will be redefined as rho u t minus 1 plus another error term vt, and rho is called coefficient of autocorrelation or coefficient of autocovariance. Okay. Now there are some assumptions upon which this Durbin-Watson D statistic is depending upon. So let us just look upon the different assumptions of Durbin-Watson D statistic. Okay. First assumption is it includes the intercept term. Regression model will include the intercept term. That means the regression model is not regression through origin. It includes intercept term. So intercept is present. Like if we are considering a two variable model, y is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 xi. So beta 1, that is the intercept term. So intercept term is present here. Okay. Second assumption says that the explanatory variables are non-stochastic or explanatory variables are fixed in repeated sampling. That is an assumption that we have already discussed in the OLS estimation part. OLS assumption is also saying the same thing. So the explanatory variables or the independent variables are fixed in repeated sampling. Third assumption is disturbance term ut are generated by the first order autoregressive scheme that we have already explained here. Our error term is following a first order autoregressive scheme. First order means 1 lag is applied here. Autoregressive coefficient is denoted with rho. Okay. Now the fourth assumption is error term is assumed to be normally distributed. So the error term is normally distributed. That is the fourth assumption. Fifth assumption, regressive model does not include lagged values of the dependent variable. So that is an important assumption. In the regression model, whatever is the regression equation, the explanatory variables will not include the lagged value of dependent variable. There is no lagged value of dependent variable present as explanatory variables. Okay. So like y t is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 x t plus beta 3 y t minus 1 plus ut. This type of equation will not exist. This is the dependent variable. Then this is the lagged value of dependent variable. This type of explanatory variable will not include in the regression model. So regression model will not include explanatory variable, lagged values of the dependent variable. This is the dependent variable. Lagged value of dependent variable will not be included here. This type of explanatory variables will not be used in a Durbin-Watson D statistic. Okay. Now the fifth assumption, there are no missing observations. So there is no missing of data. All observations are considered. No missing observation is there. So these are the 5 or 6 assumptions that we have used in order to formulate the D statistic. Okay. Now we are making the test statistic, and for testing we have to have some hypothesis. Only if we have some hypothesis we can test it. Okay. So our hypothesis, null hypothesis is that rho is equal to 0. That means autoregressive component. Is it? This is the coefficient of autocorrelation. So this is equal to 0 means no autocorrelation. Coefficient is 0 means no autocorrelation. Obviously the alternate hypothesis will be rho not equal to 0. That means autocorrelation can be there. Either positive or negative autocorrelation can exist. Okay. Now, this rho we know that rho is the coefficient of autocorrelation. It is defined as sigma u hat t into u hat t minus 1 divided by sigma u hat t square. So this is the equation for our coefficient of autocorrelation rho. Okay. Now it can be shown that values of D statistic lie between 0 and 4. Okay. D statistic. This is the statistic that we have to find. This will lie between 0 and 4. So minimum point 0, maximum limit 4. This is the range of D statistic. So D statistic can also be written as D is approximately equal to 2 into 1 minus rho hat. This is the equation for D, and this equation is formed because our rho lies between minus 1 and plus 1. Only if rho lies between minus 1 and plus 1, we get D between D between 0 and 4. Okay. Since we know that our D statistic lies between 0 and 4, we can say that rho will lie between 1 and minus 1. So if rho is equal to minus 1, then D equal to 4. If rho equal to positive 1, D equal to 0. Okay. So rho equal to 1 implies D equal to 0. That means positive autocorrelation is there, because our correlation coefficient is equal to 1. Rho equal to minus 1 means D equal to 4 implies negative autocorrelation, because our coefficient is negative term, so it is negative autocorrelation. And if rho equal to 0, that means D equal to 2, exactly in between these two range, and that says there is no autocorrelation. So this is the assumption, or this is the requirement for our regression, that is the coefficient should be 0, D statistic should be equal to 2, and that implies there is no autocorrelation. Okay. Now we have to go to the mechanism of Durbin-Watson D statistic. So let us explain it step by step. First step, we have to run the OLS regression and obtain the residual terms. Find out the values of error terms. Run the regression, find out the values of error terms. Second, compute D value. Okay, from where we will get the D value? In the initial part, we have already defined D statistic. D is equal to, hope you remember the equation, sigma u hat t minus 1 the whole square divided by sigma u hat t square. This is the equation for D statistic already defined, and with this equation find out the value of D. Already we know the value of residual term, so u term is already known. So from the value that we have find by running the regression, we can find the value for D statistic. So that is the second step, compute D value from first equation. Now the third step. So we have given the sample size, the number of explanatory variables all are already given. Find out the lower value and upper limit of D. So we know that it is maximum 4 and minimum 0. So find out the critical DL, that is lower bound, and DU, that is upper bound values. So that is the next step. Find out the critical values of lower and upper limit. Okay. Now fourth step, if the computed d value lies within this critical limit. So this is the critical region. Okay. And if the value that we have computed lies between dl and du, then we can make a decision regarding the presence of positive or negative autocorrelation. So based on the value of d that is computed, and based on whether the value lies between this range, we can find if there is positive or negative serial autocorrelation that is presenting in the model. Okay, so these are the 4 steps. Decision can be taken based on the value, critical value that we have found. So based on these 4 steps, we can formulate the D statistic. Okay, so the decision rule can be made. This table shows the decision rule which can be made based on the values of D. Okay, so there is null hypothesis. We can set null hypothesis, no positive autocorrelation, no negative autocorrelation, no autocorrelation. 3 possibilities are there. Okay. First hypothesis, no positive autocorrelation. We can reject this hypothesis if D value lies between 0 and lower limit. Okay. So if the D value lies between 0 and lower limit, we can reject the hypothesis that there is no positive autocorrelation. Okay. If D value lies between the 2 critical limits, DL and DU, lower limit and upper limit. So if the D value lies between this lower limit and upper limit, we cannot make a decision regarding positive autocorrelation. Again, we have to look if D value lies between 4 and 4 minus DL. 4 is the maximum upper limit. So 4 and 4 minus DL. If the value lies between this, we can reject that no negative autocorrelation. Hypothesis that no negative autocorrelation can be rejected. Again, if this lies between 4 minus du and 4 minus dl, du and dl upper and lower limit, 4 minus du and 4 minus dl, between these 2 range, if our d value lies, we cannot make a decision. Finally, if the d value lies between upper limit and 4 minus du range, then there is no autocorrelation. I mean, there is no autocorrelation hypothesis, and we do not reject no autocorrelation hypothesis. So this is the condition for taking a decision based on the null hypothesis. For little more easier understanding, we can express this in a figure. Okay, look, this is the minimum point. This is the upper limit for 0 and 4. So we know D will lie between these 2 values. So in between these 2 values, anywhere in between this. Okay. Now we have again the middle point is 2. We already know the middle point of this limit is 2. Then this is DL value. This is DU value. 4 minus DU, 4 minus DL. Since this is 4, this much means 4 minus DU. This is 4 minus DL. Equally divided. Now the first hypothesis, positive autocorrelation, we have to reject positive autocorrelation if the D value lies between 0 and DL. Now, if the D value lies between DL and DU, we cannot make a decision regarding positive autocorrelation. Coming to this side, if the value lies between maximum 4 and 4 minus DL, we can reject the evidence of negative autocorrelation. If it lies between this region, 4 minus DU and 4 minus DL, it is zone of indecision. We cannot make a proper decision. If the value lies between DU and 4 minus DU, that is the central part, we do not reject H0 or no positive or negative autocorrelation. There is a possibility of no autocorrelation in this middle portion. So this is the decision rule that we can make based on the D statistic. Okay, so the figure will explain how can we take a decision based on the D statistic. So this is the major test for detecting autocorrelation, Durbin-Watson D statistic. and the simple, it is so simple process. We have to run the regression, find out the residual term, then find out the range, upper limit and du and dl, and find out where our critical d value lies, take a decision. Okay, we already know what is the formula for d, so we can compute the value of d also. This is the Durbin-Watson d statistic that is used for finding out detecting the autocorrelation problem. Okay, now we are moving to the fourth method of detection, that is BG test or Broch-Godfrey test. Okay, so this test is formulated by the statisticians Broch and Godfrey, and therefore it is named so. So they developed a general test of autocorrelation. So this test is called general test because it allows certain conditions. It is considered as a general test because this test is more open to certain conditions. Okay, first accessibility is that this test is applicable for non-stochastic regressors, so lagged values of the regression. So we have already said in the assumption that the regression analysis should not include the lagged value of dependent variable. Hope you remember that in the assumptions of D statistic. Here this BG test need not focus on that particular assumption. That means even if there is lagged values, like we have written, okay, y is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 xt plus beta 3 yt minus 1 plus ut. Okay, so in the previous case D statistic, we have said that this type of equation will not be applicable for D statistic, calculating D statistic, but BG test is applicable even if the equation include the lagged value of dependent variable like this. So that is the first speciality of this BG test for making it a general test. Second condition is that higher order autoregressive schemes is also applicable. In the D statistic, we have said that AR1 scheme, that is autoregressive with first lag will be available possible in D statistic. Here in BG test, autoregressive model with 2 lag or 3 lag, anything will be possible. So this test will support autoregressive with higher order moving average. Okay, higher order autoregressive schemes. Then a third condition is simple or higher order moving average of white noise error terms will also be included here. So moving average, we will deal this in detail in the coming sessions. So this BG test, it is also called LM test, Lagrange multiplier test. It is also called Lagrange multiplier test. Okay, so this test proceeds with a few steps. Okay, let us look. Consider a two variable regression model. Y is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 xt plus ut. Okay, equation 1. Let this be equation 1. A two variable simple linear regression. Now we have to assume that the error term, this error term follows pth order, not first order, second order. Any order autoregressive is possible, we have already said. So we says that this follow pth, p means any number, order autoregressive scheme. So we can say that this equation is autoregressive p scheme, not first order, second order, anything is possible. Okay, now if this follows an autoregressive with p order scheme, then we can write the equation residual as ut is equal to rho 1 u t minus 1 plus rho 2 u t minus 2 plus etc. plus rho p u t minus p plus epsilon t. So this is the white noise error term. Okay, so this is the situation. AR autoregressive with P order means P lag is possible. So ut is equal to rho 1 ut minus 1 plus t minus 2 plus up to t minus p. Now we can formulate the null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is that rho 1, rho 2, etc. up to rho p equal to 0. That means no autocorrelation. This implies that no autocorrelation. That means coefficient is, all coefficients is equal to 0 means no autocorrelation. Okay. This is the case. Now we are applying BG test. How we can test this, whether autocorrelation is present or not. First we have to estimate is equation 1. That is the simple two variable linear regression. This is the equation 1, right? This is the equation 1. Now simply by applying OLS or any method, just estimate the values of equation 1. OLS estimation is possible and obtain the value of error term u hat t. Second step, regress this u hat t on original x variable, u hat t on xt, then u hat t minus 1, u hat t minus 2, etc. up to u hat t minus p. So that is the second step. Regress u hat t on all explanatory variables in both linear regression, two variable regression as well as the autoregressive model. So all the, look, this was the case. Okay, so regress u hat t on this xt, then again regress u hat t on u hat t minus 1, u hat t minus 2, t minus p. So regress all these u hat t on all these explanatory variables. So for that, run the regression as u hat t is equal to, let it be alpha 1 plus alpha 2 xt plus alpha 3 u hat t minus 1 plus alpha 4, okay, okay, alpha 2 xt plus rho 1 u hat t minus 1. We are defining another, this is u hat t on its lagged values, no? Autoregressive model with p order. So we are including the autoregressive coefficient, autocorrelation coefficient, u hat t minus 1 plus rho 2 u hat t minus 2 plus etc. Rho hat is there, rho hat u t minus p plus epsilon t. So this is the regression that we have to run. U hat t on xt, u hat t minus 1, u hat t minus 2, t minus p. So that is the second step, that is regression. Run the regression. Now after running this regression, obtain the value of r square, that is multiple coefficient of determination. This is the auxiliary regression. You remember auxiliary regression, right? So from this auxiliary regression, find the values of r square. Okay. Then third step, if the sample size is large, n is large, then BG test can be observed as n minus p into r square is following chi-square with p degrees of freedom. This is the situation. So if a large sample size is existing, then a BG test can be shown as n, number of observation, minus p order, what is the order that is following, into r square. R square is already calculated. It follows a chi-square distribution. And if this n minus p into r square, n minus p into r square is greater than the critical value, critical chi-square value at the chosen level of significance, we will reject null hypothesis. reject H naught. So that is the decision. So find out error term, then regress error term with the auxiliary regression, or run the auxiliary regression and find the R square value. Then the equation n minus p into R square, find out the value, and if this for greater than the critical region from the chi-square table value, then we have to reject the null hypothesis. So this is the method for null hypothesis. What was the null hypothesis actually? Null hypothesis is that P1, row 1, row 2, row 3 up to row P is equal to 0. That is, no autocorrelation was the hypothesis. We will reject the hypothesis that there is no autocorrelation if the value is greater than the critical chi-square value at the chosen level of significance. So this is the final test for detecting the presence of autocorrelation. So hope you got it. Detection of autocorrelation. Now with respect to this autocorrelation explanation, we can just look upon the remedial measures also. There are some simple remedial measures. So what are the different remedial measures of autocorrelation? So the situation of solution is to be adopted based on the problem of autocorrelation or based on the source of autocorrelation, how this autocorrelation problem is occurring. Based on that source, we are taking the solution, or we are finding out the solution. Okay, if autocorrelation is due to misspecification of the model, so if model is not correctly specified, okay, if the reason behind this autocorrelation is misspecification, then we can solve the problem by inclusion by three methods: either including the error variable that is omitted, or excluding the unwanted variable, or improving accuracy of data. This is the solution if the autocorrelation is due to misspecification. Misspecification can occur if we include unwanted variables, or if we exclude important variables, or if we are using the incorrect functional form. So all these type of errors will lead to misspecification of the model. So if misspecification is the problem, then solve it by either by including the necessary variables, or excluding the unwanted variables, and also by improving the accuracy of data. Again, if the autocorrelation is pure autocorrelation. Pure autocorrelation means due to the specification of error term Ui. If the autocorrelation is due to misspecification of our error term, it is called pure autocorrelation. Then the remedy is that obtain an estimate of rho. Rho is coefficient of autocorrelation. So by any method, either by finding out the d value or finding out the value of error term and giving the equation, find out the value of rho by any method, then transform the original data to this rho. Original data will be transformed based on the value of rho and run the OLS in the transformed function. Then we can solve the autocorrelation, because the error term Ui is, the problem is with error term. So we are transforming the equation with respect to the value of rho, and we are rerunning the OLS estimation in the transformed function. So this is the remedy if the autocorrelation is due to misspecification of the error term. So this is all about the story of autocorrelation. So it is a problem, or it is a limitation, or it is a violation of assumptions of OLS estimation. So autocorrelation is one of the three problems of econometric analysis. Thank you.